Welcome to Fostering Together Live, presented by the Together Trust, a North West charity that provides support, care and education to young people and their families since 1870. Together Trust has a very highly respected and supportive fostering agency that has existed since the 1990s, and today we have a panel from the Together Trust Fostering Agency made up of carers and our fostering manager here to answer your questions. Do tweet in and Facebook us on #FosteringTogetherLive with any questions or comments you have, and we'll be pleased to answer them. We have got carers including Rob, Irene, Tony, Lynn at the end, and Gary Williams here, who is our fostering manager for the Together Trust. So we'll start into the questions that have been coming in. Gary, to start with you, what is fostering and who can foster?
Well, fostering is about a unique set of individuals or families that are able to provide care and support to children that are brought into the care system. Children can be brought into the care system for a number of different reasons. It can be about abuse, it can be about neglect. Their families are just unable to care for them at that time. And foster carers for the Together Trust provide a fantastic resource for the children that they care for.
And if we could get a bit more on that from you, Rob, anything to add? What is fostering?
What's fostering? It's looked after children in your home and trying to give them as normal a life as we possibly can. It's anyone can foster. You don't have to be a certain age. Ethnicity or sex. I started late, or we started late. We came into it in the 1990s, so we've been doing it since then, which is a fair amount of time. We've looked after a number of children with different needs, and it's just helping them as much as you can. If you can get small results along the way, that's the reward that we're looking for. And it's just helping them get through life as best they can.
Yeah. Thank you.
I think our role is to provide everything that's practical for a young person, including ensuring that they go to school, we provide clothes, we provide food, we provide nurturing. But I think one of the things that we tend to forget that we provide is we're providing good memories for our children. A lot of our children come to us with very poor memories and poor experiences. And we provide the opportunities for them to build a new set of memories. We're taking photos, introducing them to a social circle, helping them to make friends, helping them to adapt in school. And it's a whole rounded experience that we're hoping to offer for them for as very long as we can keep them.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's a short period, and sometimes that's well into their, sometimes in our experience, now when they're in the 20s, so it doesn't end unless something really happens to end it.
Yeah, and as regards the who can foster, you do see a lot of adverts where you're told that all you need is a spare room, but what sort of individuals do you think can foster well?
I think anyone can foster well. I think with the Together Trust, we started about 17 years ago, and we still have a very strong core, including ourselves and Tony, who started at the beginning. And we're all coming to the end of our fostering career, is what I call it. And I'd like to see, personally, for the Together Trust, a lot more younger carers coming in and realistically understanding what the job is, and to remember that it is a job. It is something that you're paid for, you're paid well for, and there's an expectation that you come into it knowing that it's not going to be easy, but if you do it properly and commit yourself, it's very rewarding.
Yeah.
Can I just say in that, no one is excluded. It is the child and the ability to look after and provide for that child that fostering is all about.
And it ties into a question that came to us from Sandra, which will come to you, Gary, on. If I'll give you that. Sandra was asking us, at what age is somebody unsuitable to foster on short-term placement specifically? So.
Okay, and that is a good question. We do get asked that question quite a lot. What I would say is that there's no upper age limit on who is able to foster. But what I would say is going back to the point that Rob made, it's about being able to take a child out, be able to take them to school, be able to meet their needs. So that would come out as part of the checks anyway.
Yeah, great. We'll move to Tony next, if we give you the mic there. Why did you decide to foster? What drew you?
Well, again, that's a very good question. And with regard to fostering, I didn't really decide to foster, I have to be honest. Going back 18 years ago, I was working in industry with a very, very busy job. And it was my wife had mentioned this on several occasions over the years that she'd really like to foster. So when the opportunity arose, we saw the advert of Together Trust in the local paper. My wife says, I'm going to ring up, see what's involved. She did that, and there was a training course for the weekend. And I have to say, because I had such a busy job at the time, I thought, I could well do without this because I've only got the weekends to recover, really. And I thought, well, no, I'm doing my dream. I've got a lovely job in engineering, which I really love, and I don't see why my wife should be stopped from doing that. So I was very reluctant at the time, but I decided to go on the training course that took place at the Together Trust at Cheadle. And I have to say, 18 years on, I'm here, and I think that answers itself. And as we mentioned before, the role of the foster care is to provide security and stability in a family setting, and to allow the child or the young people that are in your care to develop and have the same opportunities as the peers. And as we mentioned earlier about why our children going into foster care, it's usually they come from either an abusive or a dysfunctional family. So they don't have the same level with the peers. They don't feel that way, and that's the thing that's come over to us in the years. That's the greatest thing that they do get, or one of the nice things that they get. They then start to become established on a level with the peers because of the care, the hard work that you put in. And I have to say, fostering is one of the most rewarding jobs that you could possibly find. And it is a profession and an occupation. It's not just something to make some extra money at. It has to be pursued as a career. And if you do that properly, 18 years later, you'll be holding this mic, having the same conversation.
Yeah. Thank you, Tony. And as you say, that it is a profession and a career.
Absolutely.
I'd like to come to Lynn to find out why you decided to foster, but the Together Trust does provide a lot of support to treat it as a career as well.
I spent a lot of my early working life involved with children, and I think some of the reasons I wanted to come into as a foster carer is it was a bit of frustration really that my care and help for them could only go so far. So this is like another level entirely, because obviously they come into your home, they come into your life and your family and become a part of that. But also we're sort of part of an even more extended family, because that's what the Together Trust is. It's an extended family, and we all clearly know each other. And that's the support base that I think is really important with the Together Trust. Is not only do we have training, that we have the opportunity to learn things, but also share our experiences. That also we have a solid group of people that we keep in touch with, that can give us advice, and it's sort of non-threatening, because if you've had your own children, or in my case you haven't, you can always talk to somebody else and say, this is happening, what do you think? And you just get wonderful support from everybody. So I see it as being more of a professional parent is what we are really. So we do the best that we can. And the training has supported me and my family really, really well as well. So
yeah, fantastic.
Right.
And thank you. And Just to remind you, if you are watching, hashtag Fostering Together Live is the hashtag to include in any Facebook posts, any tweets that you're sending in. Do send us your questions. We will get back to you during the course of this conversation. We've talked a little bit about the question from Sandra on short-term placements. So Gary, I'm going to come back to you to find out what are the different types of placements, because there are a whole range.
Yeah, there are a range of different types of fostering that people are able to do. I mean, with the Together Trust, most of the carers that we have are approved for a number of different, to take different ages of children and numbers of children. But carers can be approved just for respite. Respite care is where children may be placed with a main carer, such as Tony or Lynn. But the main carer might need some respite if they've got family in hospital or you know, for whatever reason really. And Rob and Irene have provided respite to a number of children. It's an invaluable resource. It supports the foster carers with main placements. It allows them to have that break sometimes that they need. It allows the children to have that break that the children need sometimes. Moving on from respite, we have short-term, what we call short-term foster care. Short-term is anything from a night, and it can go up to probably 2 years. And they are generally children that have just come into the care system, so it will be going through care proceedings through the courts. So there's a lot of work goes into supporting those children. I was going back to Tony's point before, really. Those children may have come in with no boundaries at home, so at that point, Tony's role, Lynn's role, will be about putting boundaries in, providing some security, making sure they're registered with the doctors and dentists. Moving on from that, we've got long-term foster care, and a number of the children that we've got in long-term foster care have previously been placed with carers short-term. And because the children have done so well in those placements, they've been asked to consider looking after the children long-term. That means looking after the children until they're approximately 18 years old. They're not considered to be looked after once they reach 18, but a number of children do stay in their foster placements on what we call a stay-and-put arrangement into their early 20s, as Rob and Irene have done in the past.
Great.
So that's generally the range of placements that we have and we offer.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good to know.
For PACE placements.
Right.
PACE placements are something that we just started to undertake. It's where young people are arrested for one reason or another, and it's usually out of area and expected to spend the night in a cell. And they look for a carer to look after them overnight and then take them to court the next day, because they don't like to see 16, 17-year-olds in the cell. And we've started to do that last year, and we'd like to see lots more people coming in. I think people get a little bit scared thinking that the young people are dangerous, violent, they've done something criminal, so they obviously are then going to do something criminal in your house. We found completely the opposite, completely the opposite. What you tend to get on paper and what you tend to get told you over the phone is not that young person that walks through the door at 1 o'clock in the morning sometimes for a bed. You get a scared, frightened young man usually. We haven't had any girls, but maybe one day. And that really just want nurturing until they go to the court the next day. And so that's a new service that the Together Trust have started to offer.
Right. Well,
Carol, can I just go back to the point about the placements as well? We also offer, I didn't touch on emergency placements. So emergency placements, we do offer quite a lot of placements too. So you might get a phone call at 12 o'clock in the afternoon or 5 o'clock in the afternoon saying, have you got a placement for these children? And they need something there and then. So again, the foster carers offer a unique service to the local authorities in that respect, because if they aren't able to offer a placement, where are those children going to go? They are in very short notice. Irene and Rob have offered emergency placements. Sometimes the children have come with very, very little clothing, so it has meant that if they've arrived at 7 or 8 o'clock at night, Irene and Rob have had to go to the 24-hour supermarket just to get some basic clothing and nightwear for them.
yeah. Well, we're getting some questions in about how young people are matched with carers and for appropriate placements. I mean, Lynn, can I ask you about that and anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, going back to we offered all these different services, but I think it's important for people to know if they're thinking about going to foster care that it's whatever suits you and whatever suits your family. So maybe at this particular time of my life, offering what Rob and Irene offer is not something that would fit into what my life is, and that's okay. and that's fine. It's whatever suits you, your family, and the children that you are willing to bring into your lives. So I think that's quite important to know that it's what suits you. You're not just going to be given anybody at any time, especially when children come in for long-term placements. That there is a matching situation where they look at your family. The Together Trust will advocate your family, your situation, and because the most important thing is to have the best match possible, because the best match means that the children are going to be safer, they're going to be happier, and they are going to be there long term, and there's not going to be a breakdown of placements. And I think that maybe in authorities and the other services at times that can be an issue, but we have a really good rate for our kids staying with us forever.
Yeah.
And I think that's about the matching, because that's really, really important. What suits you, what suits your environment, what suits your family. So, yeah.
I mean, just talking about the matching process again there, what happens is obviously foster carers people that want to become foster carers have an assessment, and as part of that assessment we have matching considerations. So those matching considerations will perform part of the match, really. So it may be that, if you struggle with the particular behaviour, that would be part of the matching consideration. So if we get referrals through of children and young people that exhibit that particular behaviour that we know that carer can't manage or doesn't want to look after, then obviously that we won't match that child.
Yeah.
So the matching is very, very important to us. And all the foster carers that we have get exactly the same information from the referring local authorities that we have, because we are very aware that without that information, foster carers aren't going to be able to do the specific job that they do.
I think that's important. We have had quite a lot of questions in around that particular topic of the matching. So another one that's come in from Sue is, why do children become looked after in the first place? So, I mean, I'll come to you, Gary, to start with.
I mean, I touched on it earlier on. There are a number of reasons why children need to come into care, really. Concerns may have been flagged up from local authorities for a period of time, but children generally come into the care system. There's a misconception that children come into care when family members are ill and they need looking after. That still happens, but it's very, very rare. Most of the children these days that come into the care system are brought into care because there have been concerns from local authorities that their needs aren't being met. So it might be neglect, so they're not attending school, they're not being fed or adequately clothed, or there could be other abuse. They could be physically abused at home, sexually abused at home. So again, the role that foster carers play is very, very important in ensuring those children experience a normal family life and are able to work through some of the difficulties and experiences that had prior to coming into care.
Yeah. And I'd like to come to Tony next about what for you is a typical day, if there is one, as a foster carer.
Well, I have to say that it is typical because we've always dealt with long-term children. So we've had 10 long-term children over the 18 years. It depends really when you say a typical day. I mean, if you have somebody that's a baby or preschool, a young child, then it's a big advantage to CBBS and the Zingzillas and things like that. And you'll tend to get up a little bit earlier in the morning than you really wanted to. If they go into the primary school, it can be quite hectic in the morning, the school run, and you get them off to the school. And then the rest of your day is planned between that school run coming back, the normal household duties. And that's the thing about fostering. It has this title fostering, but it's no different than actually raising your own family. It's just in a different set of circumstances, as Gary mentioned before. They're unfortunate children that come from society, from an abusive background that can relate to various things, and that's what you're there is to really care for that and try and make them understand, why they're with you. At the moment, we have 3 teenagers, 2 are 15 years old, which are brothers, and an unrelated teenager of 17. And the typical morning for them is a lot more ruly, or should I say a lot more formal and a ruly one with younger children or young people. And the day will start off between between 6:30 and 7:30. People will be doing the showering, the ablutions. There's not much conversation. They're just concentrating on what they're going to do and get the breakfast. We do the school run, And then, as I said before, the rest of the day is really geared around with a normal family. You're preparing your day or programming your day to do the shopping, the household duties, plan the meal for later on. And one of the essential things for us is that we all eat together around the table and have a meal every night. We all sit together, which is, especially if you have different placements from different family backgrounds and different authorities, that you get them all to interlink and to discuss and to get on, and it works very well. So from a family point of view, it's no different. The only difference is with looked after children, they have regulation, they have meetings to attend, there's a social worker that's involved. But I'd like to say that they're treated exactly the same as our own children were, and they shouldn't be treated any differently.
And while you've got the mic there, Tony, can I also put through a question that's come in about what has been maybe one of the most rewarding moments, because it does have its challenges, fostering. It's not a walk in the park, but it is very rewarding as well. So what have been some of those moments for you? Children.
I think some years ago we had a mother and baby, and a mother and baby, the mum was showing signs that she couldn't care for the baby as well as she should, and we took a mother and baby on. The baby was 3 months old, and it went on over a period of 18 months to really care for the young baby and the mum, and to show the mum how she should really take care of a child in a responsible manner, to make sure he's fed, his bedtimes, and gets into routines. And I think one of the most rewarding parts about that was that later on they went into independence. She was able to get a house provided by the council, looked after the baby, and I'm very pleased to say that the mum and the baby is now 10 years old and at school, and it's done remarkably well, and it's been really was fantastic achievement, really, because it was a very responsible thing to take on, but I wouldn't hesitate to do it again after the result. And there was one other. In fact, it's the one I've talked about earlier. We've got two teenagers, 15, they're brothers, and we've got an unrelated one of 18. The young boy of unrelated, 18, he's gone on to take A-levels. He got an A+ in his maths at school. His education level rose considerably. The two 15-year-olds have been with us for just over 12 months, 14 months in actual fact. And I went to one of the meetings, what they call a PET meeting, a personal education plan meeting at school. And all the staff at the school mentioned that they've just transformed in their education level, their appearance, their conversation, taking part in classrooms. And there's one of the brothers, I'm sure, will be working for Bentley in 2 years' time.
Well, we are about to start to wrap up, but before we do, I'd like to ask each of the carers here today if you could tell us a little bit about why you decided to foster with Together Trust, because there are so many agencies out there that are doing this, and there is a real need in the North West in particular for foster carers. Together Trust receives, 400 referrals?
Over 400 referrals
a month. So why did you choose the Together Trust in particular? I'll start this end with Lynn, if that's all right.
Right, well, I suppose we looked into it as a family, and the Together Trust has a massive history in Manchester, and I personally am a Mancunian, so and it goes back historically hundreds of years. So that interested me to find that there was such a backlog of us looking after children. But then also, I think the need for training and support for somebody personally who hadn't brought any children up of their own, to have that seemed like a really important thing to have around me, and subsequently that's been brilliant for us in our family completely, that there's always support, there's training, there's people to talk to at the end of the phone, it's very friendly, and like I said, it's like a big extended family. So for me personally and our family, that's been great. But initially, it was just a historical thing, to be honest. But then we read more into it. So I think, that's why, personally.
Tony?
And the reason for joining the Together Trust really is when we did that initial training, it became quite apparent to me that this was a very, very good charitable service that took the child absolutely was essential. It was the most important aspect about this. And over the years, the training has been sort of moved from just basic training, has moved up quite a few levels, and it works in with the CWDC, the Child Workforce Development Council, to a part of the organisation to make sure that foster carers are qualified, and it gets us on the first rung of being a professional, professional people in our own right. And I think the Together Trust have taken that on board. They've educated everybody I meet at the various training activities. They really know the stuff. They brought in various statutory training with regard to emergency first aid, skip training with regard to retaliation, with regard to understanding the hurt child. And I have to say, speaking to other foster carers from other environments, they don't seem to have this sort of training, which is quite concerning, really. And I've always stated, well, we wouldn't do foster care unless it was with the Together Trust.
Great. Over to you, Irene.
Well, we started 20 years ago working in the residential part of it. We used to be called the Boys and Girls Welfare Society and later changed to the Together Trust. And working in the residential side of the company, the ethos of the Together Trust is very much the child comes first. It wasn't about finance, it wasn't about bums on seats, it was about if that child could be looked after by the residential side, and a difference could be made to that child, then we took them. And then they opened the fostering service, and that the ethos again was very much the child comes first. It wasn't about finance. So we started with the Together Trust. And as Tony said, the training, second to none. We were very much part, the original carers were very much part of decision making. We had a specific forum, support groups, and we were very much part of putting the fostering service together, and our views were heard. And still now, support groups are there for us to be able to say what we feel, move the fostering service on as much as we can, and we feel as our views are listened to. And sometimes carers come from other authorities, and we realise that they're not getting the same sort of service that we get and support that we get.
You might say, actually, in our case, rather than us choosing the Together Trust chose us. We developed into it. It is very much like a family, a professional family, as Tony says. When the young person comes to you, we have all the information that can be given. The matching process, the main people that they know about is us. You know, we've been there long enough. The young person is fairly unknown. What we do as foster carers is we get to know that young person. Within 6 months, we know more about that young person than anybody else because we're there 24 hours a day. Who can be a foster carer? We've touched on all the questions. Anyone can. The skills that you need, you have. You've been brought up. Your parents have given you skills. Their extended family, aunties, uncles, all add bits to that. Your friends, you've taken all that in. You use all that. What the Together Trust does with the training is shows you how to use it in the appropriate way so that you can do the best for the young person. You get something out of it as well. We get something out of it every day that we do it. The best things are when the young person that's been with you actually recalls something that happened to them. And you're expecting a major thing, you know, when we went to such and such, when we had this magnificent holiday. And it can be a small thing. Do you remember on that day when we went and did this? That's the thing where they're recalling things that you've forgotten about. It was nothing to you, but it's obviously a big thing in their life. And as Irene mentioned, it's all about the memories that you're building up for them, memories that they would never have. You know, so To us, it's the whole package. We choose now to stay with the Together Trust because of the package that they offer us and what we can get out of it, in so much as it fulfills our needs for being that parent.
Fantastic. I think that's a really nice comment to end on, actually. So I would just say, if you would like to find out any more details, visit the website www.togethertrust.org.uk. You can find the fostering section on there with full details of all of the support that you've mentioned today, an opportunity to inquire, to register to speak to a carer. You could be speaking to Lynn or Irene, or, you know, there is that opportunity. So do get in touch. It's togethertrust.org.uk. A big thank you to all of you that have submitted questions on #FosteringTogetherLive. We'll continue to answer those on Twitter, on Facebook. And thank you to the panel, to Gary Williams, our fostering manager at the Together Trust. Happy to answer any questions at any time, of course. And I'll give the phone number as well. If you do want to get in touch with Gary and the team, it's 0800 05 222 50. That's 0800 05 22250, or as I say, visit online togethertrust.org.uk. And thank you to the rest of the panel, to Lynn, to Tony, to Irene and Rob, foster carers with Together Trust. Goodbye.